Hello there. We're going to start talking about assimilation today. This is not an easy topic, so please pay attention and go back to the video as many times as you need. Before we start analyzing cases in English, let's analyze one example in Spanish. I want you to repeat this phrase and focus on the production of the nasal sound. Lo pasamos tan bien. Are you producing an alveolar nasal here? Tan bien. If you pay attention to your lips, you will probably see that what you are producing is a bilabial nasal in this context. Why? Because of the influence of the B, the bilabial sound in bien. This is a case of assimilation. So you can see that assimilation occurs in Spanish as well. Let's analyze assimilation in English. We have here one of the many definitions of the process of assimilation. When one sound is changed because of the influence of a neighboring sound, there is said to be a process of assimilation. When one sound is changed because of the influence of a neighboring sound, there is said to be a process of assimilation. Basically, what I'm going to share with you today comes from this book. You are kindly invited to read these pages after this video. Not all the English sounds can be assimilated. T is one of them. T can be influenced by neighboring sounds. I want you to repeat these examples and see what happens with the voiceless alveolar plosive. That is, which is the change? That passenger, obedient boy, fat man. Are you producing an alveolar sound? That is your tongue touching the alveolar ridge? Probably not. Which sound are you producing? Because of the influence of the following sound, you can probably notice that this is the sound you are producing. That passenger, obedient boy, fat man. If we were to transcribe exactly what we are saying, that would be the change. So in other words, what we are saying is that T assimilates into P, that is, it changes into P when it comes before a word that starts with P, with B, or with M. Let's see another possibility. Read these examples. First class. That girl. This is a bit more difficult to notice, but this is the change. First class. That girl. In other words, what we are saying is that T assimilates into K, that is, it changes into K before words that begin with K or G. There are different types of assimilation. Let's go back to the definition of assimilation. This is another definition by a different author. Assimilation is the process whereby one sound changes in order to become similar to a neighboring sound. A neighboring sound is a sound that is next to it. If we analyze one of the changes we have just seen, what changes? Let's compare the original sound and then one that takes its place. Is it the voice or the place of articulation? T is voiced or voiceless? T is voiceless, and the one that takes its place is voiceless. So it's not a change of voice, right? But let's focus on the place of articulation. T is alveolar and P is bilabial. So this is a case of assimilation of place. If we now compare the sound that takes the place of the T and the one that follows it, what they share is the same place of articulation. M is bilabial, P is bilabial. So the sound changes in order to become similar to the neighboring sound. That is, in this case, it takes the same place of articulation. Bilabial, bilabial. Something else we need to pay attention to is between the two sounds that are together, which one influences the other. And in this case, T assimilates into P because of the influence of the second sound, that is, M influences T. That's why we talk about regressive assimilation. The second sound affects the first one. When the sound changes, that is, when the phoneme changes completely, we talk about phonemic assimilation. So the complete name of these cases we have just seen, all of them, is phonemic regressive assimilation of place. Assimilation because there is one sound that takes a characteristic from another sound. In this case, what it takes is the same place of articulation. That's why we call this case of assimilation, assimilation of place. It is regressive because the second sound affects the first one. And it is phonemic because the sound is replaced by another one. So the phoneme changes. Another sound that can be assimilated is D. Let's analyze these cases and see if you can tell me what change D undergoes. Are you producing an alveolar sound here when the next word starts with P, B, or M? Probably what you are producing is this. The child packed good books. I'm glad my dog. So what we are saying is that D assimilates into B when the following word starts with P, B, or M. Let's see here. Kind girl, good care. Kind girl, good care. You don't say kind g, good g. As you can see, D assimilates into G when the following word starts with G or K. If you compare the examples, you will see it's the same context between T and D, right? We are introducing the same contexts. let's analyze the name. This phoneme is replaced, so we are talking about phonemic assimilation. It is regressive because the second sound affects the first one. And what changes if we compare the original sound with the new one that takes its place? D is voiced, B is voiced. So the change is not a change of voice, but D is alveolar and B is bilabial. So this is a case of assimilation of place. The complete name of these examples of assimilation would be phonemic regressive assimilation of place. Another sound that can be assimilated, that is that it is influenced by other neighboring sounds, is n. If you pay attention to the three sounds we have mentioned, the three of them are alveolar sounds. T, D, n, when they are followed by the same sounds, p, b, and m, and in the next examples, k and g. So let's see if you can repeat these examples and tell me which is the phoneme that replaces the alveolar nasal in these contexts. Do you say ten p, ne p, can b, seven m, or 10 passengers can buy 7 miles? Actually, what you're probably saying is this: 10 passengers can buy 7 miles. This means that n assimilates into. Take 1 minute and complete the rule. Stop the video when you have the answer. Play it again. What we are saying is that n assimilates into m before p, b, and m. And let's analyze the last two examples for the alveolar nasal. Can call, can give. Do you say can g? No, you probably say can call, anticipating the production of the following sound. So which is the sound that you're using in this context? The sound is the velar nasal, when it is followed by a velar sound. So again, stop the video, try to complete the rule, and when you have the answer, play the video again. What you are saying is that n assimilates into n before k and g. If we take one of the examples we have just seen and analyze what happens, we will get the complete name of this kind of assimilation. The sound changes. It is replaced by another phoneme, so it is phonemic assimilation. The second sound affects the first one, that is, this sound changes because of the influence of the sound that follows, so it is a case of regressive assimilation. If we compare the original sound and the one that takes its place, we will see that n is voiced, is voiced, so we are not changing the voice in the sound, but n is alveolar, is velar, so this is a case of assimilation of place. Now, if you complete this chart, you will have a summary of what we have seen so far. So stop the video, complete the missing information, and we will check it together. So we have seen so far that alveolar sounds t, d, and n are affected by their neighboring sounds, that is, by the initial sound of the following word. Actually, what happens to them is that they change into new sounds, taking the place of articulation of the following sound. So it's not that you have to remember all these cases. What you need to remember is the information here. Let's analyze what that means. If you compare the sound that replaces the original sound and compare it with the sound that follows, what they share is the same place of articulation. That means that t assimilates into p, a bilabial sound, when it is followed by a bilabial sound. The same with d. The same with n. It changes into a bilabial sound when it is followed by a bilabial sound. And they change into a velar sound when they are followed by a word that starts with a velar sound. There are still two more sounds that are affected by neighboring sounds, and they are also alveolar sounds, and those are s and z. Let's see these cases. As you can see, the voiceless alveolar fricative assimilates into sh when it is followed by these sounds. So I have included those examples in this chart for you to complete the missing information. Stop the video, complete this chart, and we're going to check it together in 1 minute. Let's see if we are still talking about the same kind of assimilation. Is it phonemic? S assimilates into sh, which is another phoneme, so it is phonemic. The sound changes. Is it regressive? That is, does the second sound affect the first one? Yes, it does. So it is a case of regressive assimilation. What changes? S is voiceless, sh is voiceless, so there is no change of voice. The original sound and the one that replaces it share the same voice, or in this case they lack voice, right? But s is alveolar and sh is palatoalveolar, so the change is a change of place. So we are again in the presence of a case of phonemic regressive assimilation of place. And and z changes into zh in the same context we have introduced for s. So you can now complete the missing information. Stop the video, we'll check it in a minute. So now we've got all the cases together here so that we can see how to analyze this information, which is the one you need to remember. S and z are replaced by, and the place of articulation of these two sounds is palatoalveolar sounds. So they are replaced by palatoalveolar consonants before consonants that have a palatal feature, which are these ones. The same in both cases. So We even have one way of generalizing all we have said so far, including all the sounds that are affected. Let's see if you can complete this information. So what we have seen is that t, d, n, s, and z are affected by neighboring sounds, specifically bilabial sounds and velar plosives. What is it that they take from the neighboring sound? In these examples, they take their place of articulation. That is, if you compare the sound that replaces the original sound with the one that follows, you will see that they are homorganic. That is, they share the same place of articulation. We know this is difficult. We have said that it is a good idea if you read Crattenden's book, upload it in the campus. And now we're going to work together in the assignment with some examples with Key, and then let you work on your own and check the rest of the activities in our next Zoom meeting.